Yo, yo, yo. What's going on? Addis, how you doing? Tail end of lunch break. Hopefully 4G stays on once I leave the shed. You got no chance, mate. Like the feed already. It's always good content. Yeah, sweet, man. Sweet, sweet, sweet. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Yeah. So I don't want to hang around too long. I've got some things that I need to do. So talk a little bit about Evergrow as well. Being as I've got it up, people have been asking me and asking me and asking me and asking me. So I'll kind of go through that. I'm going to wait a sec just to let people come in. And actually, I need to change something. 1 second. 1 second. 1 second. And also, as well, I just want to say a massive thank you to everybody that is, that has jumped on the membership. It's good because it means it's going to allow me to do something a little bit later this year, which I'm hoping is going to pay off. I've tried a few times and it's just not working. It's nothing to do with, online content or anything like that. I'm trying to do something specific, but the last 2 times it's not worked. This time I'm hoping it will. So we shall see. But anyway, it's for the benefit of everybody, so we'll see how it goes. Right, Bitcoin. Obviously, we've been talking about Bitcoin for some time. It is pulling in a little bit, but something I want to make clear in this live is that even though Bitcoin's pulled back a little bit, and when you kind of go to these lower time frames, you're like, oh yeah, that's a bit aggressive. It is likely, and I'll just show you right now on the hourly that we end up down here. All right, and I'll change this to green because it will be pick up a buy side just here. So we may very well end up down here at 28.4 to around about 28.2. Yeah, we're not that far off. It is possible. Maybe one last final, sort of drop in there, rebalance a little bit, grab some, some pickup here. But it's more about the structure of price and the way that price is moving around, really. And it will be, you'll notice, for those that are paying attention to the analysis that I do, if you look at this section of price right now, right, you'll see that we've got, the first pickup and then an impulse, all right, stabilizers. You've got, and this is the fractal nature of price, right? It's pretty cool. So you've got a high that's created, a new high that's created, then it breaks down, reverses. This is a pretty aggressive snapback. Then it just negates that. So it means it's reaching for something else, right? It has to be. And put aside, the math, put aside the blockchain, put aside the figures, the Bitcoin dominance, all of this stuff that you can look at on, on the blockchain, and just focus predominantly on what we're seeing on the chart, right? And that is, it's negated this move, which means it doesn't want to go up. And it means it's searching for something else, right? So price is probably going to end up down here where the impulse is. Now check this out. So take a snapshot of that in your head. Are we not seeing the same thing? Impulse, high created, secondary high created, drop, tries to go up. Okay, so there's your snapback, reverses, starts to go. Obviously, it was reaching for this level down here. This is where we ended up to, this is where it slowed down. This is where you get that big spike that went straight through and kind of, reversed a little bit. This was going to be the one. This was going to be the bottom. Everybody was going crazy, whatever. And then it did a secondary drop, bleeds. You go back up, snap back. So if this move right now gets reversed and we end up anywhere near 21, 22, or 23, we're going lower. That's it. That's as simple as one can make it. And it's really important that we understand that because, the fractal nature of price is the fractal nature of human behavior, right? And the way that humans behave emotionally when it comes to investing, when it comes to trading, doesn't change. It simply will not change. It won't change. It doesn't matter how many models you throw at it. It doesn't matter, looking at AI now and saying, well, we've got an addition of AI, we've got the addition of cryptocurrency, we've got the addition of a new asset, whatever. It doesn't matter. Human behavior will never change. It just won't. That's as simple as it gets. If it was going to change, it would have changed in the last 7,000 years, right? And you want to know about human behavior. I heard this once years and years and years ago. Put 2 babies in a room, an empty room, and just put one toy in the middle and see what happens. Right? Human behavior doesn't change. Okay, this is very, very important. The study of psychology and the study of holistic theory, and in some respects game theory as well, gives you a much deeper understanding of how humans behave when it comes to the financial markets, right? So we have some very interesting times ahead. And to not kind of drag this on too long or to bore you all with the same kind of rhetoric over and over again with Bitcoin, let's just take a look at, I was doing something earlier. Let's just take a look at at Evergrow. I've had a lot of people asking me about Evergrow. What's my opinion? What's going on? This, this kind of Atlas and the staking and all of this stuff. Well, if we just take a huge step back, there's a couple of things that I want to talk about when it comes to Evergrow, and I'm not going to take too long, right? It's very simple for me. I'm going to give you my opinion and what I think, right? If you go back from the launch of Evergrow coin, right, it was besides SafeMoon, this was the big one, right? They just launched at the right time. They were very lucky, in the sense that it was, kind of a new thing. It was promoted pretty well, a lot of hype, and obviously we had this insane run, right? There's no denying that. Big run. And this was driven by over 130,000 investors, of which I'm going to knock off 10K and just say they're dead wallets, crap, whatever. And we'll say 120,000 investors basically pushed this all the way up. And then obviously people took profits up here. I've said this before. I already know this for an absolute fact. Some of the people that took profits up here went and started their own projects. So there were many people that took advantage, or should I say there was a small group of people that took advantage of Evergrow coin. These so-called big players, that have given up their tokens and whatnot. If we look at their holdings, they obviously received millions in reflections as well. But then, obviously Evergrow's took a turn to the downside. We have that secondary pop here, and then obviously we've ended up, realistically, I have to zoom right out on this just to flip an egg. So now we're all the way back down here, right? So if you look at the chart from the perspective of every other project that has done this, it looks like a pump and dump. We know it's not, but it looks like a pump and dump, right? We've seen this chart many times. I mean, looking at this chart, I can tell you it's pretty much exactly the same as Seifu, right? Or some of the other projects that we're familiar with, Reflex Finance before it did a migration to V2 and so on. So that's the first thing. The second thing is where we currently are now. Throughout this period, this is a reflection, okay? So this portion right here, right, from this high, all the way down to where we currently are now is a reflection of the way that the project has presented itself and what it's been doing throughout that time, right? It was going to be Crater, and then it was going to be, a bunch of other stuff, and then it was the NFT marketplace, which was then rebranded to Lunar Sky, and then from Lunar Sky now it's the Atlas wallet. I'm assuming forgive me because I've not been keeping the tabs of this. I'm so busy with Reminiscences Finance, but I believe there is some stuff going on with the abstract as well still. And then obviously the launch of Lucro. And now we're currently in a situation where we're waiting for the Atlas wallet, V2, or the alpha, or, basically full launch of Lunar Sky, because we're currently in beta, I'm still assuming. The launch of Atlas wallet, the integration of staking, which, apparently was never going to be a thing, and so on. Now, the reason I'm being slightly condescending and sarcastic is because I want to illustrate a point, not because I have an issue. I don't care, but I want to illustrate a point. The chart will always reflect what is happening behind the scenes. Yeah. And this is why I'm so good at reading charts, because I don't look at charts and look at price and look at patterns and all of this stuff. I'm looking at price behavior based on human emotion. That's pretty much it. I've said this many times because I've got a very acute understanding of what people think. Forgive me for sounding arrogant, but I believe I can read people better than I can read charts, right? Which is saying something. So that application is put on the chart, then I can see it, and I'm like, okay, yep, just the way that everything's going and the way that people are on, and just kind of tracking, people's behavior, looking at things on Twitter, looking at, the Discord and so on. I'm like, yeah, price is going down, not because of any technical pattern or any indicator or any, pick up a buy side or sell side or anything to do with that. It's just people lose interest and they sell, right? I've also said as well that people will, and this has got nothing to do with Evergrow. This is project wide. In fact, it's just basically globally, any investor or large investor that can see that their money is slowly going to, or profits are slowly going to erode, they will protect their profits and sell, right? Pure and simple. Oh, sweet. I saw something about chain analysis. So that's the second thing. The third thing is the inconsistencies, right? And this is through no fault of Evergrow. I think it's just they grew too big, too fast, and they had to kind of pivot and make some changes, do some things, and kind of revamp everything and so on, right? The inconsistencies in delivery, right, can cause a challenge, a big challenge, right? Because then you have two things to fight. You've got to fight, the development of whatever it is that you're trying to do, but then you've also got to fight, the FUD, the negativity, the lashback, the people, so on, right? And because there is a much larger holder base, you have more people to fight, right? If you look at the percentage or the ratio between all projects, right, the FUD's about the same. Yeah, you get roughly maybe I don't know, if you're lucky, maybe 3 to 5% FUD or negativity in a project. So when you're looking at Evergrow, you think, wow, it's like really bad. It's not. It's just they've got more holders, so obviously that 3 to 5% looks like it's more, right? So that's the third thing to take into consideration. Now, where do we go from here? Like, what is Evergrow going to do? Well, according to them, they're going to launch. They're going to bring some, some amazing products to the table. If they do, price should go up, right? Yeah. Would you guys agree? And let me get back to the chat. Would you guys agree that if they deliver everything that they say they're going to do, would you agree that price should go up? What's your opinions? And don't forget to like the stream as well, by the way. This is an important question. I'm gonna mess with your head. Drake, what's going on, man? I saw your message, by the way. I'll let Mike answer. We're still waiting for some things from the devs, so I've just not had a chance to respond. Sorry, mate. But there may be something that Mike's got for you, so I'm not sure. So I'll just give it a little. I'm just going to give it a few more minutes. Well, I say minutes. Minutes is eternity when you're doing a live stream. But I want to really, I really want to illustrate a point, right? But I believe too many looking for an exit. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I agree, Adders. I agree. So the theory is that when you deliver a product or a service, the way that they're trying to, and some of the things that they're saying they're going to do, we should see, a pretty decent movement in price. Now, let's make a distinction here. That's the only thing people care about. They shouldn't, in theory, but it is really the only thing that people care about. Just like the chart's the first thing people look at when they're looking at a project, right? Assuming it has one, assuming it's post-launch. So you have to look again at people. Forget the products and everything else. Look at people. And again, this applies to every project, including Rematic Finance. Yeah. So when that relaunches, I'm very acutely aware of what people are thinking. And this is why I've made every effort to make sure people are on point, have confidence, understand the process, understand that there are things I am absolutely keeping to myself, because you think it's a mistake or an accident, or some coincidence that a lot of the things that I do and we do, at Rematic Finance, are all of a sudden being implemented elsewhere. I'm not an idiot, guys. Come on, and I'm not saying I'm the smartest person in the room. I don't want to be the smartest person in the room, but there's a reason that I keep a lot of the stuff that I want to do, to myself, and I throw out little bones everywhere because I want to see who's going to copy, I don't want to sound like I'm a genius. I'm not, but I am calculated a little bit because I don't trust people, I don't trust people, and I want to protect my investors. So at the end of the day, when you have limited resources and you have other people that do have resources, you end up in this situation where it's like, okay, I've got to be very careful what I'm saying, because there's another company or multiple companies out there that have the resources to put together what I'm going to do and what I want to do, and I'm in the process of doing, but a lot quicker, right? So, we want to bring some of these things to market first, and then we have the competitive advantage, because at the end of the day, this is still, a competitive environment. We've got to make sure that we are doing things correctly, all with the protection of investors in mind, right? But price should go up, and it won't, right? You may get a little pop and whatever else, but the selling pressure and the fed up nature, of people's behavior, and thinking and feelings and emotions and everything else will keep Evergrow down for quite some time. And it's through no fault of Evergrow in the sense of the chart and, the potential that it has. It's not about that. You have to look at, like, I'm going to be really blunt here, guys. Sorry. I can't stand people, right, who just don't look at reality, who refuse to look at reality and just base their opinions on nonsense, right? If you purchased Evergrow, right, and you made millions in reflections, and then you look at the remainder of the 99% of holders in Evergrow coin or any other project that this has happened with. So you've got your people, the 1%, 2% that have made a lot of money. They took all the reflections, they've made all the money, they sold it, a decent time, then they rebought back and got more tokens and all the stuff that we normally see. The 99% of investors, right, that are sitting at a loss or holding their tokens, hoping it's going to go back to all-time high, they're missing something very important. You will never, ever, because it is mathematically impossible, get anywhere close to the amount of reflections that the very small group of people got at the beginning. Yeah, you just won't, you know. And because of that, you have to think, well, hang on a second. If the reality is that they're going to be, you know, bringing out all of this stuff and then, you know, kind of producing a lot of money, and then that money is going to be going into the ecosystem. We're all familiar with buyback and burn and this and that and the other, and da 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 da. You know, is it enough to tailor to 120,000, 130,000 holders? I don't believe it is, right? And this is why being too big is a bad thing, in my opinion. Now, to be clear, and I know a lot of people maybe will get to this point, or maybe they haven't got to this point in the video, so they're not going to hear what I'm about to say now, right? But this does not mean that in 10 years' time, Evergrow isn't a huge, huge player in the cryptocurrency space. I have no doubt if they continue to go on the path that they're going, they're going to do very, very well. So this isn't about immediate gain, intermediate gain, medium term gain. This is about 10 years down the line, because in the next 5 years, you know, we may see some projects really, you know, sort of flourish in the cryptocurrency space that predominantly focus on products and services within this space, or we won't. But in 10 years' time, we're going to see something pretty spectacular, I think. And there's going to be quite a few projects, you know, that are going to go under, and there'll be, you know, some really, really good ones that are left. Yeah, the partition absolutely did help with that. You know, it made it fair, right? So I'm just reading through the questions. Yes, based on proving themselves, everyone market says that actually makes. So Jeet saying that actually makes a lot of sense, referencing the small amount of people who did well at the beginning. Absolutely, absolutely. You know, you've got to be able to separate what's going on in your head from what's going on in your heart, right? The heart will always try to overrule with emotion, and the mind will always try to kick in logically, unless you're right brain dominant. You know, predominantly left-brained, you know, dominant people, they will, you know, they will use logic, and they can kind of outweigh what's going on in the heart emotionally, you know. And you know, the left brain dominant logic will kick in and say, sit down, I'll take it from here. Whereas right brain dominant people, you know, they think holistically, creatively, but they also, you know, are very emotionally attached to the things that they're doing. So you have to be able to, in both instances, take a step back, you know, and say, okay, what is the reality of the situation that I'm seeing? Is it better to be in a project, you know, that is, you know, a huge holder base, but has larger potential? Or is it better to be in a project that is, you know, a smaller holder base, but that has medium-term potential? Because you have to look at it. It drives me nuts that people don't think this way. You have to look at individual holders. You, Adders, Nordic, Drick, Jeet, Ryan, DeFi, Reality. You're all individual holders. And if you're holding Evergrow, or if you're holding Squidgrow, if you're holding Reflex, well, it's not even Reflex anymore, but you know, if you're holding Rematic or whatever, you're an individual holder that when you make your money, you're not going to take that money and then give it to somebody else and say, see, I told you I was going to make a lot of money. There you go. This is personal to each one of you, right? And anybody else that's on the stream listening. It's a personal thing. And as a personal thing, you have to look at your reality. And your reality is, depending on where you purchased Evergrow coin, you will either be up or down. And then depending on how long you're going to be holding, you know, your reality might be, well, I just want to get as close to break even as possible so I can leave. Or I'm easy, I'm just going to forget about it. I've stuck it on a ledger, I don't really care, you know, or whatever. Everybody has their own reality, and you've got to go forward on that reality, and also look at the past and say, well, look what happened. Where are we now? And where could we potentially be going? So these are important questions. Very, very important questions. And again, this isn't about Evergrow. This applies to every project, you know. But I'd also add as well, when you have, you know, a good war chest, you should be able to move things, you know, along a bit quicker, in my opinion. That's just me. Ryan, what's going on, man? Yes, I did. And you know what? The more I listen to this man, the more I like him. You know, he's absolutely, you know, he's fascinating to listen to. I've always loved Tucker Carlson as well. Tucker Carlson's brilliant. You know, he's so funny, man. He's so funny. You know, my wife listens to him a lot as well, so I can always hear his voice in the background. It's actually quite interesting, but I know more, you know, news people, senators, you know, mayors of country of states and so on in the States than I do over here in the UK. Yeah, because I hear it all the time. As soon as I'll go downstairs and there's somebody's voice talking, I'm like, yeah, that's Tucker Carlson. You know, yeah, that's Ted Cruz. Like, I just know, you know, because like you get so they've got such distinct voices. But the interview was very interesting, very, very interesting. I like what he said about inflation. It's inevitable, guys. Like, it really, really is inevitable. And that just goes, and to be fair, sorry, this is something else that I forgot to say about price going up. It won't. When the market crashes, everything's going with it. And it's through no fault of any project. It really isn't. You know, just the fact that B&B will go down will just drag everything with it. And no amount of money, trust me, no amount of money is going to stop that. Yeah. And it's actually better to let it happen, to flush the market out completely so we can start to build back and grow and recover in a healthy way. The last thing we need right now, right, is for, you know, the market to mildly crash, semi-crash, flash crash, whatever you want to call it, you know, and then inflation kick in, everybody sells and leaves crypto, you know, and the project is frantically using its war chest, trying to buy back, you know, to prop up price. The worst thing you can do. And there's a little hint, if anybody's listening that's got a project, let it happen. Yeah, let it happen. Let it filter out. The buying pressure after that will be a lot stronger. Yeah, it is. It is DeFi. Yeah, it is EGC. I was just talking a little bit about it. What happened to it? I sold and moved on as no utility, big loss. Yeah. I mean, look, as of current, you know, they're going to be launching the Atlas wallet. They're going to be launching the second version of Lunar Sky, which is their NFT marketplace. They launched Lucro, which is going to be integrated into a lot of their ecosystem. They are doing the abstract stuff, and is there anything else I've missed? Anyway, a bunch of stuff, and apparently it's coming soon. Oh yeah, and staking. But yeah, I like that Jeep. Yeah, I only bought in as much as I was happy to lose if it went belly up. Absolutely. Yeah. Yep, and there you go. You said it secondly as well. Happy for it to sit, and this is, I feel, the best position to be in. Just let it ride out, man. Let it ride out. You know, I know somebody who personally made a lot of money on Evergrow coin, right? And the interesting thing about that is that first initial phase, and we see it again, you know, in a lot of projects, you know, is where most of the money is made. And then ultimately after that, to even come close to anything like that, you have to basically hold for an immense amount of time, years and years and years and years and years. And the project, you know, the project has to deliver something pretty, something pretty substantial. Otherwise, most of the money's been taken out of the project, you know, because you'll notice as well, and I don't want to hear anybody, you know, refute this. If a project has to keep relaunching other things, to bring in more money, it means it doesn't have the money to do that with. And there's nothing wrong with that. Swissborg's just done that with their Series A. Yeah. The point being is, in my opinion, I think a project should be able to use the limited resources that they have to then get to a point where they're generating revenue, and then they can move forward from that. And if they ever need to raise funds, it's because what they're trying to do is spectacular, but they've already got an existing revenue base from the products and the utilities that they, you know, that they've brought to market. Referencing QNT CBDC, Gilbert Veridian was giving all manner of privacy assurances the other day. I'm not convinced, but I've bought into QNT anyway. Yeah, I've not looked into it, to be honest, but CBDCs for me, I think there's going to be a big fight over CBDCs in the coming months and years, and we'll see how it all plays out. I'm really not a fan of CBDCs. I think it's a control mechanism. I think it is going to be a systemic, you know, grip on humanity. We already see it in, you know, in China and some other countries where they're implementing socialist systems and credit score systems, and it's not very difficult. We'll have a digital ID at some point, which I refuse to have, you know, and so on and so on. You know, and we'll see how it plays out, you know. But I'm the crazy guy. Trust me, guys. Yeah, if it wasn't for rational people like you online that I could speak to, you know, I'd be like shaking back and forth like this, you know, in a jacket. Yeah, like it's nuts. It's absolutely nuts. Said would never do staking, never change the tokenomics, just people made a load pre-sale. Yeah, Yeah. Unfortunately, we don't need more wallets and don't need more NFT marketplaces. Just my view. Yeah. I mean, look, it depends on how you do the wallet. From my understanding, and again, I've not really looked into it, in too much detail. But it's slightly different. I don't know. Maybe the wallet generates revenue. I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. If I had time, I'd look into it, and maybe I will at some point. But at the moment, honestly, every waking moment of my life is focused on either, Rematic Finance, the Access Positive Wellness Center, and the things that we need to do for our own personal investors. Just making sure, because I'm waiting for an email. You're Woody Harrelson from that disaster movie. I've had a lot of conversations with people over the years, about multiple different things, and in person, right? But when you speak to people online, the variety is incredible, and it's actually interesting because you end up in a situation where you learn so much more talking to people on Discord, for example, and making friends online than you do, talking to the people that you normally used to talking on a daily basis. Let's get rid of this. This needs to be boom like this. So I'm very grateful. I've said this many times. I am so grateful for the people that I've met online, and the sanity that we all find, online together, in the all discords that we're in, the community that we've built. It's really, really cool. And I'm very fortunate in this respect. I've had offers for people. If you ever come to our country, let me know. You can stay at my house, this and that. And where else are you going to get that, really? There's people that have helped me out in crypto. Really, really good friend of mine, in crypto. Always thinks of me whenever something happens. He's like, bro, I've got this for you. Do you want it? And I'm like, sweet, and vice versa. I made sure that I helped him out, and he benefited as well. You don't get that, in society anymore. You do, but it's very few and far between. And I think because people have gone a little bit nutty, it's unfortunate. But the cryptocurrency community, because we all think the same way and we want the same thing. Everybody wants to make money. Everybody wants to be free. Everybody wants decentralized, systems. We all think the same. We vary, in our opinions on certain topics and things, but we're all looking for the same thing. And this is important. So if you've made friends online, especially within the cryptocurrency community, man, make sure you hold on to those friendships, because they're going to last over a longer period of time. So kind of banging on for about half an hour. You guys got any questions, anything you want me to go through? Just to give you guys a quick heads up as well, the experiment that I'm doing, and Lobo, actually, you made a point. I can't help myself. I saw I saw the little dip coming that we've seen recently, and I basically sold all of the positions that I had open. So I'm sitting on $1,000 and 20. So just as a quick breakdown, I actually posted this online as well, or somewhere. I can't remember where I posted it, in the Discord maybe. So BNB, I made $3.41, XRP 427, SHIB 290, BTC 277, and then DOT, that was the bigger one. Invested 50 and made 57.20. Yeah, so $7.20 profit. So yeah, I'm waiting for another opportunity to reinvest and get that going again. So that's pretty cool. I'm happy about that. And yeah, so with all of that said, happy to take some questions, happy to hang around for another 10 minutes or so. So you guys let me know. And in the meantime, give me 1 second. I shall be back. I don't. G, what is this? Not sure if you know, but thoughts on Tommy creating a new decentralized internet and currency. This guy disguises his voice whenever he talks. I'm not sure what you're referencing. Sorry. Interesting question. Oh, is that Del Boy? Yeah. All right, Rodders. Only Fools and Horses, man. Best TV series ever created, as far as I'm concerned. Absolutely fantastic. I'm a terrible trader. Is it better to DCA into BTC, as almost inevitably it will go to all-time high at some point, as only a limited ultimate supply? Basic economics. I agree. It will inevitably get to all-time high, whether it's through the devaluing of the dollar, or whether it's through momentum-driven movement, or whether it's through buying and so on. I think ultimately it will eventually end up at all-time high again at some point, in the future. And that's tentative. It could be 10 years, it could be 5 years, it could be tomorrow. Who the hell knows, right? But in terms of DCAing, is it better to DCA as opposed to trade it? I mean, you've got to look at what it is that you're trying to accomplish with Bitcoin. If you want to stack Bitcoin over a longer period of time, then DCAing is the way to go. When you're dollar cost averaging, you've got to basically try to do it in a spaced environment. So let's say, for example, you're looking at, not that one. So let's say, for an example, you're looking at Bitcoin like this, and you say, all right, look, I'm going to grab it at 28,742 right now. Yeah, I've got $1,000 or $10,000 or whatever it is that you're working with. I'm going to split it up. And then I'm basically going to start staggering my entries, maybe something like this. Actually, probably the better way to do this. 1 second, guys. So you're probably better doing something like this, right? So, and then you have to control your emotions, right? Because if you don't control your emotions, you'll be like, oh, but I don't have enough. Yeah. So if you grab some at 28,754 and it rips to the upside and goes to all-time high, you're going to be annoyed because you're like, I should have just put it all on. Yeah, but if you did put it all on, guaranteed it would have gone to 12K. You can't win. So the best way to DCA is to basically space your orders out in a way that makes sense. You don't buy at 28,761 and then 28,760, 60, and then 27,999. You space it out and make sure that your final add is in a place where it actually makes sense to add the most. So if you grab 100 here, you grab another 100 here, maybe you grab a couple of 100 here because it's at 20K, you expect a little bit of a bounce. Maybe you offload a little bit as it goes up, and then if it starts to recede a bit more, you maybe add that back at 18K. And then if it continues to drop and it gets around 12, maybe add 500, and you're stacking that way. And if it starts to go back up, you're looking for confirmation, strong, healthy levels like a reversal here, the pullback, and then you see the impulse. You're like, okay, cool. I'm going to grab a little bit here as well. So I'm going to add more to my position on the way back up. Maybe it goes to 35. It starts to pull back. You add some more and so on. You've got to be methodical, calm, precise about your DCAing, because otherwise you end up in a situation where your emotion takes over and then you just end up, DCAing too close, too much, too quick, and you lose money. And then you become a holder. I'm going to hodl for life. Diamond hands. Yeah, that's what happens to people. LSP. This is Harry. 1 second. Yeah, I'm not going to answer that. Harry, is that Alex? Yeah, it is Alex. Nice. He is such a nice guy. I'm completely off topic, but Alex Fazell, Cyrus's brother from Swissborg, such a nice guy, man. Such a nice, always smiling. Absolutely love that guy, man. Love him. I'm short on BTC. I think the next, let me get this up. So I'm short on BTC. I think next level is 25K, then maybe 2,800. Where we have a CME gap. Love to know your thoughts. Okay, so yeah, I don't want to give you, advice, financial advice. Obviously, that goes without saying. Something I always try to avoid. But 25K and then 2,800. Yeah. I mean, look, if we let me get rid of these. And I'm going to give you my opinion based on structure, right? So, you have pause points, right? So where you had this reversal here, you're like, okay, so price goes down, it reversed. Okay, cool. So if nothing else, it's going to stabilize. Yeah. Unless something pretty significant happens and it drops all the way back down again, it's going to pause price a little bit. We see it right here. Price drops, reverses, negates the move, and you're like, okay, cool. Is this going to keep going? It looks like it's a reversal. Big, strong tail. Great. Stabilizes a little bit. Then we get the drop, right? So if nothing else, we see pauses in the markets. But because it's done this, it's likely that we are going to bleed a little bit lower. If nothing else, I believe we're going to bleed a little bit lower to at least 28, we'll call it 28K. 28 to 28.3, right? After that, then I need more information. I need to see, what happens at this level if price gets there. If it doesn't reverse this, I mean, it may go up a little bit, retest this LP, this previous LP, hit a balance point, start to kind of grind low a little bit more, then hit this level. The way it does it, is it an impulse? Is it a momentum driven move? Is it a ramp up? Because if you just get a drop out of nowhere, that's probably going to be met with a snapback. If you get a slow ramp up, and then it really starts to go something like this, where it ramps up, and then it pops, you're more likely to continue. Or if it just stabilizes, runs back up and then reverses and then starts to ramp up, you're more likely to go a lot lower. So there's a lot of variables. I'm not going to say which one is going to unfold, but I do believe we are going to see a little bit more downside, at least for the short term, right? That's the best I can offer, man. Would love to hear your thoughts further on EGC, on if EGC can produce what they are saying, or have they missed the boat with the market? I don't believe they've missed the boat. I don't believe any projects missed the boat. I feel that there is a transition period happening at the moment. I think a lot of cryptocurrency firms, projects, companies, organizations are going to be moving out of the US. I think there's going to be a challenge there, to try to find the best country that is crypto friendly to allow these projects to flourish. And then in terms of what EGC is producing and can produce, I believe that they have enough money to produce quality products. I think the biggest challenge that EGC faces is this. Everybody knows that they've got a lot of money. So if they produce mediocre products or services, that doesn't bode well. Yeah. So as far as I'm concerned, they've got the war chest. They've got plenty, of funds available. They've done their little whatever it is with all of these people. And bought back tokens, and they've fabricated more tokens now for their staking. And they're in a strong position to be able to deliver on what they say they're going to deliver. So if they don't, that's going to be pretty poor, in my opinion. So to answer more directly, yes, I do believe that they can do it. If they don't, that's bad. I hope that helps, man. Just as a quick side note, we're going to aim to do a podcast, and we're going to be discussing, some of the recent events with Gensler and some of the other things that are happening within crypto. That should be posted sometime next week. Just depends on when we can get around to it. Yeah, no worries, Rugby. You're absolutely welcome, man. And I appreciate you being here. I've said this many times, that every minute that you guys spend with me, I value greatly. It's not a joke, man. People's time is important. And if I can offer insight into anything, I'm more than happy to do that. It's got unemployment claims coming today in an hour. Very important. Keep an eye on those. May see a little bit of a shake in the market. Let's take a look at the dollar. So DXY, yeah, just reverse a little bit. We're going to bleed lower into this 100 as far as I'm concerned. I've already put my neck on the line anyway. Dollar's going to see $100. Yeah, that's not looking good, man. You see, you've got to learn to just look at things basically, like when you're looking at charts. Don't worry about all of this and the ups and downs and just look at the up and the down. It was going up, and it's just not anymore. Every time it goes up, it's been met by pressure to the downside. This is the BRICS obviously causing problems. A lot of countries now are stepping up and saying, yeah, we don't need the US. Why should we? And they're trying to do their own thing. Of course, it's going to affect the dollar. Now, whether this is a trap by the US, who knows? We'll see. Gold holding well. Not bad, not bad. The NASDAQ. I predominantly look at the NASDAQ when it comes to cryptocurrency and the correlation. May see a little bit more of a pop on the NASDAQ, maybe 13.5. But today's going to be interesting in terms of the unemployment claims release. So we'll see how that goes. Again, may spill over into cryptocurrency, but the cryptocurrency I've said recently is an illiquid market at the moment as far as I'm concerned. No one's going to change my opinion on that. I absolutely believe that that is the case. And as such, I think we're going to see some aggressive volatility. If I may be so bold as to say dirty volatility. Yeah. Seems most are domiciling towards the east and moving away from the old economies, which are over-regulating and as self-preservation. Yeah, yeah. And sorry, yeah, this is going to continue. It's going to continue. It's going to continue to, to hurt the US dollar. We've also got to look at the alternatives, right? So the alternatives are going back to a gold standard, these types of things. But who's going to be the custody of the gold? Who's going to make sure that that gold is, correctly sourced, and with what? Which currencies are they going to use to, to purchase said gold? Is it going to be held in each individual country? So that's one, kind of opinion. And then you also have the fact that I think ultimately there's this divide between people who don't want CBDCs, and I'm talking about everybody, not just us. I'm talking about institutions, governments, central banks, whatever, government officials, people who are fighting it, and also those who want it, right? For the same reason. So you have this huge divide, and those two kind of divides are, there is no balance, guys. Let's be clear, there is no balance with a central bank digital currency. There is no balance. You're never going to find a balance with central bank digital currency. You can't have a central bank digital currency and cash. Yeah, inevitably one has to fail, and it's going to be the cash, because we're in a digital world now. They're going to be pushing that. Cash is going to be useless. But there are countries in the world where they do not accept anything other than cash. Yeah. So they can't just say, well, you're going to have to accept this. They don't want to accept it, and they won't accept it. They will riot. They will fight back. They will smash that country to pieces. We've seen that many, many times. So the next year, 2 years, is going to be very, very interesting. But ultimately, I think we are going to end up in a situation where a central bank digital currency will be dominant around the world. I believe the US dollar is going to lose its reserve currency status. I believe one of the Eastern countries is going to take that place. I also feel there is going to be a war. I believe China is going to attack, the US in some way or another. These are just my opinions, obviously not facts. And I also feel that we are going to be going through some very, very interesting times. And it's important for us to stay on an even keel, to make sure that we protect each other's sanity, and try and have a little bit of fun throughout all of this process, and try to learn from each other as much as we can. LSP knows his stuff. I appreciate that, man. Yeah. I think your liquidity pool strategy for price movement is the one that sticks with me mostly. Yeah, and what's interesting about liquidity pools, it's just a term that I use, and many, many people use. It's not mine. It's been used for years. It is where it's not supply and demand, it's not support and resistance, and it's not liquidity pools. It's just a term to reference what's happening on the chart in a way that is understandable from a psychological point of view. And you have to think about technical analysis, at least the way that I do it, in the opposite way. So psychology first, then technical analysis. If you guys have ever, if you guys have been around long enough, you'll know that I used to have LSP TV, Invested Intelligence now, that used to say it's the trader, nothing else. It is the trader, nothing else. The trader will always be responsible for everything that happens in their trading. And then on top of that, the trader will always be responsible for the reactions of said trader and making something work or not. You could put 10 traders in a room looking at the same chart. Both of them, or all 10 of them, go long. And some of them will make money and some of them won't. Trust me, it's the trader. It's not what we're looking at. Totally. Even in the UK, some shops don't accept cash, albeit due to CC fees. CBDC is inevitable, and unfortunately, most will just accept it. Yeah, and it's based on ignorance as well, DeFi. When I go into a shop, I try to use cash as much as I can, where it's available. And if an establishment refuses to accept cash, I make them take it. Yeah, because it's legal tender. I'm not even going to go into all the laws, in terms of common law and in terms of statutory law and blah, 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 and in terms of legal tender and what that actually means. And, from a monarchy standpoint, you have to accept it. And if you don't accept it, I'm not leaving the store. If you want to call the police, I'm more than happy to have a conversation with the police as well. But you are going to accept the money that I'm giving you, because it's the only thing that I have. And you are denying me the right to buy milk because you don't want to accept cash for reasons that are ridiculous. And then they'll try and pull the, yeah, Yeah, it's ridiculous. And they'll try and pull this is my establishment. It's a private establishment. I don't have to accept cash. Well, actually you do, because you're paying business rates. Yeah. Even if you're not paying business rates and you're on small business rates relief, you are still registered with the local council, which means you have to absolutely 1000% accept legal tender. If it's got the Queen's or the King's face on it, you have to accept it. Sorry, guys, 1 second. Sorry about that, guys. I think the energy crisis is a good cover for CBDC pass-through. People distracted by heat, eat, won't pay attention, CBD. Yep, 100%. 100%. And this is, I said this recently in a tweet. I was saying that when I was a kid, to get a message out, you would make a quick phone call on the old phone, that was plugged into the wall. And you'd go out and it would take days, for messages to reach people sometimes, and if it was something important, that was just the way it was. Now you can, within seconds, the whole world knows. And this is why Gary Gensler got caught out immediately when he was talking about Algorand, or whatever. I believe it was Algorand. Yeah, I believe it was, and talking about Uber being, sort of built on that and whatnot, and about, Ethereum not being a security, and the inconsistencies in his testimony and all of this stuff throughout the years, it's instant. And this is what's so cool about the time that we're in right now. You've just said something, G, right? That people are distracted and they won't pay attention to CBDC implementation. Well, it's not about being distracted. It's about segregating people, right? So the message only goes to groups. Yeah. You've got to, again, think about psychology, right? If you're sitting around the table with your family and you're having a discussion about CBDCs, for example, that's only going around the table. Maybe you send a message to your group, on Telegram or WhatsApp or whatever. That goes to, again, another select group. Slowly, that might get forwarded to some other groups. This is why they tried to stop forwarding during the COVID crisis. I'm not even going to call it a crisis anyway, whatever. I'm going to go into that. During that time, they tried to stop, message forwarding up to a certain amount. People were going nuts. But that's what they do. They try to slowly segregate people, and put them into very, very small clusters to stop that message getting out. Twitter changes that now. This is why it's so amazing, because the message gets out. It gets out very, very quickly, and the ability to be able to understand that CBDC implementation, there will always be somebody out there that will look at the finer details and post it online. Yeah. And Twitter now is the ability to be able to look at that online and say, wow, actually, this is a big deal. I'm going to retweet this. Very important. Bang. Everybody knows. So they have to become more smarter with the crises that they use. I'm being very careful what I say, that they use to continue to distract people. Yes, legal tender. I even argued over a Scottish note. Oh man, don't get me started about Scottish notes. The amount of times I've had to scream at people, right, and had arguments with people about accepting Scottish notes. Anyway. Yeah. This is why I stopped talking DeFi. I don't want to get into that. I'm very fortunate to be around people, that understand my thinking. I understand their thinking. We're very, very close, very strong as a family. But yeah. So, all right, guys, 50 minutes. I think that's good. My wife called me a minute ago. I'm going to go downstairs and eat some food. Great session, I think, as always. And I hope everybody finds value in, what I'm discussing. Yeah. And I will speak to you guys very, very soon. Obviously, as always, appreciate the time that you're spending with me. If you're not in the Discord, links in the description below. And I'll speak to you guys at some point later today, I'm sure. All right. Take care, guys. I'll speak to you soon. Ciao.